Hello Year 10 and welcome to another happy Monday morning of lockdown. Of course, who knows, we might have been told last night that we're not in lockdown anymore, in which case you will have me in the classroom and this video, because quite frankly I've already made it, so Mrs. Smith in stereo, baby, oh yeah. But anyway, whichever one it is, today we will be learning about cardiovascular disease. So do it now. If you haven't already, pause the video and you need to answer at least 10 questions on TASMI, reach your daily goal. And I also want you to write down why you think people have heart problems, because that's what we're going to be looking at this lesson. So what do you already know? What do you already think about that? Okay, so before we look at heart problems, we're going to start off by thinking about obesity. Okay, and I'm sure that's something that you've all heard of before, and I know that you're going to say that links in, and guess what? You are right, it does. So, what is obesity? Obesity is when you have too much fat on your body. Okay, everyone needs some fat. We all need fat. Our nerves, as we know, they've got those myelin sheaths around them to help the message jump quickly down the nerve. Myelin sheaths are made of fat. Okay, we've all got fat on us. If we didn't have fat, we'd be too cold. Okay, we've all got fat. These little bits of my fingers that I can squeeze, can't squeeze a lot of them, but that's a lot of fat, and that's keeping all the nerves and the bones insulated and protected. You fall over, you sit down too hard, you land on your bottom a bit too hard, it's muscle, but there's a lot of fat around it as well, and that fat's a nice cushion as well, so that we don't get hurt. So fat's got a lot of great things to do in our bodies, and we do need some of it, but only some, okay? So obesity is when we have too much fat. Okay, please, you do need fat, don't eliminate it, but you can have too much of it. And it doesn't just build up around your fingers. It builds up everywhere in your body. It's not like if I suddenly gained, 5 stone of fat, it wouldn't just go all around my arms and my body and my face and my legs. It would also go around my organs. And that's where the danger is, because once you've got a build-up of fat around your organs, it stops things from happening inside your body that need to happen. Okay, so we need to write this down. Obesity is, right, just get this right. Obesity is too much fat in the body. I'm going to write it down, you're going to take a look. Okay, so obesity is overweight due to too much fat, and it leads to a fatty buildup around the organs. So what can we do about this? How do we know how fat we are? Well, you can use your eyes, but sometimes that doesn't work, okay? Because we are very good at deluding ourselves that whatever weight we are, that's normal. That looks good, that looks fine. And it's found that people don't actually spot when people are overweight or obese because we're so used to seeing it these days. And so there is the bluntest of blunt instruments we can use to measure it. Now, before we do this, I just want to say it does not work if you are still growing and are just about to have a growth spurt. It can be completely wrong. It doesn't work if you are into bodybuilding. So all these bodybuilders, weightlifters, boxers, people like that, some athletes, they come out as being obese if they use this. Okay, it is a very blunt instrument. So please don't worry about your weight because of it. But if you do this for yourself, and it does turn out that you'll maybe have a bit more weight on than you wanted, don't worry, but do speak to a health professional before you do anything, because you are still growing. And this is a very, very blunt tool, okay? I am just very aware that I am teaching you something which could then be used to trigger an eating disorder or something like that. I really hope it doesn't, because it's not worth it. Okay, my lovelies, you are all perfect as you are, but we do need to learn about this for your exam. and it's called the body mass index, and there are lots of reasons why it's not a good idea. Okay, you can do this for your own mass and height. That's absolutely fine, but as I say, don't worry too much if what comes out, because you are still growing and developing. So what you need to know is your mass in kilograms. Now, I weighed myself just before the video started, and I happen to be 71 kilograms, okay? And considering I just had a really big dinner, I'm quite proud of that. My teenager cooked for me, and he gave us all teenage boy proportions, which are, as you're probably aware, huge. So 71 kilos for me, which is a fine and good weight for an adult. And height, and this is why it's important, because if I was only, say, 5 foot tall instead of nearly 6 foot tall, this might not be so good a weight. But as it is, I am nearly 6 foot tall. We need to do this in centimetres though, so I am 180.5 centimetres. So I am going to do on the calculator. Okay, let's watch it, make sure I do the sum correctly. 71 divided by 180.5 squared, because we need to square our height, and that gives me an answer of, hang on a second. Okay, sorry about that. The height's in metres, not centimetres. So I am 1.805 centimetres tall, which is 180.5 centimetres. And that comes out, and my body mass index is 21.79, 21.8 to 3 significant figures. So let's write that down. Equals 21.8. Okay, and anything between about 19 and 25 is considered to be normal, a good weight. But is it? I mean, this is just numbers, and numbers don't really tell us anything. And before you say, hang on a minute, don't numbers tell us our grades? Yes, your numbers do tell you your grades, as well as your body mass and things like that, but they don't actually tell you if I'm fit. Okay, there's lots of other things to measure about a person that don't come in numbers, and fitness is something else. So am I healthy? Well, this here is saying, yes, I am pretty healthy, but a better way to measure it, and is how if you went to your doctor and say, oh, I've just done my body mass index for school and I found out that my body mass is over 25, I'm really, really worried. 25 to 30 is just overweight, okay? We usually worry about that. It's when you head into over 30 obese and over 40 morbidly obese that you'd start to worry. And as I say, you could be a weightlifter and get a body mass of over 40. So a better way to do it is your waist to hip ratio. And this is where you measure your waist and then you measure your hips and you figure out what the difference is, because if you are storing fat around your middle, so if you've got someone here who's a stick person and has got very slim hips, but they're still wider than the waist, yeah? Okay, their hips are larger than their waist. That's pretty good. On the other hand, you've got somebody who is what we used to say apple-shaped when I was at school, which is a bit weird because they're still human-shaped, you know. No one's shaped like a piece of fruit. So there we go. We've got another stick person. And their waist is a lot bigger. And what we've found is you've got a larger risk of cardiovascular disease if you carry your weight around your middle. Okay, if you carry your weight on your hips and your legs, you're absolutely fine. Carry your weight around your top and your middle, you are slightly less fine. Okay, and just like we were saying on the other day when we were learning about non-communicable diseases, a lot of this stuff is genetic. Okay, so you are not going to be able to escape it. If you come from a family of people who carry their weight higher up their bodies, chances are you will too. And this is also, again, why when you go to the doctor will say to you, do you have any family history of whatever this is? So you go to the doctor and say, oh, you know, I'm struggling with tiredness and with this and with that and with the other. I say, oh, do you have a family history of... because what your parents have had and what your grandparents have had, you may well have the genes which could make you susceptible to that as well. So anyway, yeah, waist to hip ratio is a much better way of measuring if you are at risk of cardiovascular disease. And I'm saying this about the genetics because I'm very, very aware that we do have risk of cardiovascular disease in my family. So I've got to be really careful, and I take all the advice I'm going to give you on how to be healthy. So, okay, so what I have set up here, this is a model of what happens inside your body. Now, as you know, blood runs through your body in arteries, away from the heart, and back towards the heart in veins. And normally, you have lots and lots of blood and it runs through your arteries really quickly, lots of space for it. Okay, and it's not just one piece of blood, it's lots of pieces of blood all at once, and they can go really quickly. But what happens when you smoke? Okay, smoking can build up little plaques inside your arteries like this. So instead of running straight down, let's see what happens if we pop a ball down our clogged up artery. So it's taking longer, and the blood has to push its way through all these bits of clogged up artery. It's not easy. Let's do a time challenge. I'm going to set 2 balls off. The balls are about the same size, and we're going to see which one reaches the end first. Even though they won't set off at perfectly the same time, this is shorter, and yet it still took that little marble, that piece of blood, longer to get through that artery. Okay? But it doesn't just stop, it doesn't just go on like that, because what happens is these little fatty deposits keep building up and building up. And this one's going to build up as well. And this one's going to build up. So let's see what happens when we set 2 very similar marbles off at the same time now, when there's been a bit more build-up. So the first one goes through, and the second one has been blocked. Okay, so when the arteries get too full, the blood can't get through. If the blood can't get through, you can't get oxygen and glucose to the cells at the end. If the cells don't get oxygen and glucose, they can't respire. Well done. And if the cells can't respire, they're going to run out of energy, they're going to die. And when this happens, it can cause all sorts of problems, but the main 2 we want to consider are heart attacks and strokes. Heart attacks obviously affect the heart, strokes affect the brain, but it's the same thing. It's these clogged up arteries that stop the blood from taking things to the cells. So these clogged up arteries are basically stopping the blood getting there, and parts of the brain and the heart can die, and that can cause either a heart attack or a stroke. Yeah, it depends as well. If this, for example, so let's imagine that this clogged up artery was somewhere up here, yeah? You could end up with lots and lots of cells depending on that clogged up artery. If that happened, you've pretty much died, sorry. However, this one's right near the end. It's only really supplying 1 or 2 cells. And so what happens then is you have a minor heart attack, or a TIA, it's called, for your stroke, and it's recoverable from. But which arteries get clogged up, I'm afraid it's just a matter of luck. So if you know you've got a family history of heart attacks and strokes, please, please, please be very, very careful with your weight, about exercising, because exercising not only is a good way of keeping your weight down, it's also a really good way of getting your heart nice and healthy and keeping your arteries clear. Don't give up eating fat. There are some really, really good fats you can eat that can help clear arteries, okay? So fat is not bad. You've just got to be sensible about it. Yeah, so if you know you've got a family history, watch what you're eating, do some exercise, and please don't smoke, because smoking can do this to your arteries as well. Okay, so what's going to happen if you do have a blocked up artery like this? Obviously, we are not going to want the blocks to get too big. Maybe they've got a little bit bigger. Maybe there's just a little bit of a blockage, making it just a little bit harder. The blood can squeeze through, but it takes a while. And maybe you end up having, you know, a few heart murmurs. You go to the doctor, you get checked out, and they find that you've got this. What can they do? Well, what they do is they can put in something called a stent. And a stent is where they get a piece of mesh and stick it in there. And they push it in. And then what they do, it's really clever. So they push it in and it's nice and thin. And then they open it out. So as it opens up, boof, it's going to get rid of most of the problem. Now, hopefully the rest of it, hopefully it'll get rid of a bit more than this. Hopefully we can have a stent in and it ends up looking like this one. Okay, if there's a lot of a problem, it might just go back to this one. And then we would expect you to be stopping smoking, looking after your diet, doing the exercise to try and minimise that as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I've got here about smoking clogging the arteries, stopping blood from getting to cells, and then you end up with heart attacks and strokes. I'm just going to write a bit about stents in the heart quickly. Okay, so last bit, I promise. Stents are these mesh tubes in the arteries. They push the blockages out the way, but you still need to improve your lifestyle options. Okay, you can't just go, oh, I've got a stent, I'm fine. You are going to need to do a little bit of exercise and looking at your diet too. Okay, Year 10, so I'm going to leave you to do the worksheet on smoking and heart disease while I move my marble run. See you for another lesson very soon.